The ring muscle up is one of the most advanced gymnastic skills in CrossFit. In this video, we're going to show you a lot of technical drills and exercises that help you to get your first ring muscle up, to improve your timing, your efficiency, as well as your capacity. When it comes to the ring muscle up, it's important to consider that it places a lot of stress and strain on our body. That means we want to develop all of the structures first. This is not just our muscles, but also our connective tissue, our tendons, ligaments, and everything that holds our body in place and that transmits forces across the body. Therefore, you should take all of these drills, even though some of them are very basic, extremely seriously. If you already have some ring muscle ups, you still want to keep them in your programming and keep progressing through these drills to not only improve your capacity, but also to stay safe as you perform ring muscle ups in your training and possibly even in competition. The first set of drills is going to be performed on the low rings. The low rings are great to develop some basic strength, especially for the dipping portion of the ring muscle up, as well as some timing drills to gain an understanding of how your body moves through space and help you to improve your timing. The second set of drills is on the actual high rings. And these drills are the most important to develop the strength as well as the capacity for ring muscle ups, but also, more importantly even, especially if you're just starting out, your technique. With all of these drills, it's very important that you don't do too much too soon and also not too much in one single session. We always recommend spreading out your practice over several sessions. That means if you're just starting with your ring muscle up practice, instead of practicing once a week with one big session where you do all of the exercises, we recommend splitting it up into maybe 3 sessions where you just do a little bit every single time. And then, for example, one session could be specific to the dip, one session could be specific to the swing, and one session could be specific to the actual whole movement where you include some extra isometric to build some more strength. We start with some basic drills on the low rings to develop the positional strength and the basic strength for the ring muscle ups to stay safe, as well as to develop capacity to do more reps and do more reps safely. The first thing we're going to do are isometric holds or static holds, and we're going to start on the low rings with a support hold. In the support hold, you want to make sure that your arms are as straight as possible, and then you push down from the shoulders, from the scapula, from the elbow and from the triceps to have as much space between your shoulder and your ear as possible, and relax. When doing the support hold, you also want to press your arms into your hips. As I said, keep them as straight as possible, and to make it more challenging just to practice the support hold, you can turn the rings out a bit so your palms are facing forward. This is not necessarily something we would do on the high rings when doing ring muscle ups, but this is very beneficial when just practicing the support holds to really train your lockout, because it requires more strength from the triceps as well in the shoulders to have this scapular depression as well as the arm extension that is mostly done by the triceps. Now we want to add another layer of complexity and instability, which is a swing in the support position. This can be done in 2 ways as well. We can have the hands parallel to one another or the ring slightly turned out, and the second part is definitely more challenging. So basically what we're going to do here is we hold the support position, and now we change from a slight hollow to a slight arch to create some undulation and some swinging in the rings, which requires more strength in all the musculature that supports us in the support hold. The next thing we're going to do is we move into the bottom position. In the bottom position, you want to be as comfortable as in the support position, so this is also a prerequisite you want to check. Keep in mind that this places a lot of load on the shoulder, especially because the shoulder is going into deep shoulder extension. That means warm up well for this with the drills and exercises we've showed you before just jumping into this. When you hold the bottom position of the ring dip, you want to make sure that you're as low as possible in the position to really mimic the landing position that you would have on the ring muscle ups, especially as you fatigue and you catch the ring muscle ups lower and lower. As you can see, the ring is even touching the biceps or the shoulder, and we have a deep shoulder extension. A similar concept to the ring support hold when we're at the top is that we press the arms together and that we always also want to control our scapula and our shoulder griddle by having our shoulders pulled away from our ears and not sinking into the shoulders, and relax. We can also add some swings in the bottom position to mimic what would happen in the ring muscle up. Especially as it's not a static movement, we often introduce some swinging at the top, especially when we are working with the shorter rings. And this is a great way of getting used to this. Here as well, you want to swing with your legs and then transition from a slight hollow to a slight arch. Once you are comfortable with these positions, you will have a better understanding of positional awareness, and that will allow you to find the right timing for your dip out. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to introduce some motion. We start with the eccentric. The eccentric is usually the portion of the movement where you can tolerate higher loads, and it's a great way to get started and build the capacity for the concentric or the full range of motion. So here we're going to start in the support position, and then we're going to lower ourselves slowly until we're in the lowest position possible. Here we can add some holds as well. That means we could hold 2 seconds at the top, lower, hold 2 seconds in the bottom, and relax. You want to build volume gradually, and you also can play with the time of each isometric and with each eccentric. That means you can hold the isometrics longer, as well as increase the duration of the actual eccentric. So Jacqueline's now going to demonstrate like a 5-second lowering from the top into the bottom position. And relax. And even if you have ring muscle ups already, these are still drills and exercises that are important to build more capacity. Not just in terms of doing more reps, but also building up the capacity of your connective tissue to handle more reps in a safe way. The next thing is we're going to add some more dynamic movement. When we do the actual ring muscle up, we don't want to only do strict ring dips as we do for strength exercises, but we also want to use the momentum of the swing of our legs to dip out. To develop this, we're going to do a bottom of the ring dip swing, as we just showed you, but then at the right timing, we use the momentum to dip out of the position. So here on the third swing, Jacqueline is going to dip out and perform the ring dip. This makes it very specific, as we would do it on the high rings when we do the actual ring muscle ups. So this is a great way of developing the timing and the positional strength, and then carry it over to the actual movement. So as you swing your legs back, you want to utilize the momentum, press simultaneously. This is very important, that you get the timing right and that you don't press at the wrong time. As with all of these drills, we always recommend filming yourself from a 45-degree angle so you can really see and go back later to see how you're moving and get some real-time feedback. Next, we're going to show you another technical drill that gets you a conceptual idea of what the transition on the high rings feels like. The main concept here is to transition from our knuckles facing upwards to our knuckles facing downwards when we're on top of the rings. A common problem for the ring muscle up transition is over gripping, where we hold so tight onto the ring and don't let it go during the transition, so the ring actually is not rotating in the hand. What we're going to do here is we're going to be in a ring row position with our knees slightly flexed, and then with the hip extension, we're going to throw ourselves over the rings and turn our hands and catch in a nice and tight position. The important thing here is that you always end up in the same bottom of the ring position as you just practiced previously. That means you have deep shoulder extension with your elbow stacked on top of your wrist, and you want to loosen your grip just for a fraction of a second to let the ring rotate in your hand so your knuckles are facing downwards at the end. Another important concept that we can practice with this drill is the connection of the hip extension with the turnover of the rings. That means this should always be in the right sequence. We want to extend our hips first and then turn the rings over, and not the other way around, because the other way around we wouldn't utilize the momentum generated by our hips to drive the upward momentum. One more time. A lot of athletes find it difficult after learning ring muscle ups with bare hands to do them with grips on as well. That means this drill can be used to practice the transition of the ring muscle up with your grips on as well. So here you have a very controlled environment and can just practice the correct timing of loosening your grip to have a turn on your hands. Now we move on to the high rings. The very first thing that we show you is very basic, and it's just hanging from the rings. So Jacqueline's gonna jump up now, hold on to the rings as we just showed you, and as you can see, her arms, her grip, and her shoulders are completely relaxed. We hold some basic tension in our core, in our glutes, and in our legs to just maintain a very slight hollow position, but you don't want to overly engage your scapula, your grip, or your shoulders, because that will just put additional stress on them and make them fatigue early, or even sabotage your swing and slow your swing down and make it less dynamic. We move into the next thing, which is a kipping swing on the ring. Here we're going to use a very small bead swing just to understand the swinging of the rings, and it is very important that you master this step first before moving on to bigger amplitude swings that are more like the actual ring muscle up. So this is just to, one, understand the timing of the swinging of the rings and the timing of your body and how your body moves to space, and then two, also to strengthen your shoulders, your elbows, your wrists, and all of that connective tissue that needs to build up as well to increase your capacity for ring muscle ups. So here we're moving through a slight hollow and arch position without ever breaking at the midline. So we don't want to have the ribs pop up, and we also don't want to engage shoulders too much. Just as much as needed to hold on to the rings. Also keep your legs together and straight, to have a nice straight body line from your fingers to your toes. Once you're comfortable with the small kip swings, we're going to move into a larger amplitude. We don't want to go straight away from very small to very large. We want to build it gradually. And it is important that you always maintain the right timing and that you always maintain control over the rings. At no point of the swing, the strap should get loose or the ring should jump in the strap. This is something very important to monitor. This is also something you feel, but we always recommend getting some video feedback there as well, because it's very easy to see on video if you do it wrong. Also, keep in mind that you want to keep your body lines as straight as possible as for the basic small swings. So nothing is going to change except for the amplitude of the swing. So Jacqueline is now going to jump up to the rings, and she's going to build the amplitude gradually without ever changing her form. But as you can see, not only her body is moving through a bigger amplitude for space, but also the rings are displaced over a greater motion. Here, it is not only important that we reach a great amplitude, but also that we reach it consistently. Every swing should be the exact same. And when the rings are swinging forward, your feet or your legs are swinging back. When your legs are swinging forward, the rings should follow and come back with you. When you lose rhythm, we always recommend to pause and then start building up from a smaller amplitude until you can get it right. Next, we're going to move on to do a complex. When you have mastered the kip swing and the timing of the kip swing, we want to introduce some hip extension and a simultaneous pull of the arm. A common misconception with the ring muscle up is that you pull to the hips. If you watch an actual slow motion of a ring muscle up, the pull actually happens more under the rings and is more towards the shoulder or towards the face. So the drill we prefer to use is a chest to ring. So our complex is going to be one big amplitude kip swing into a chest to ring. If you have mastered this, you can connect several of these complexes to another to have a good practice. As you could see here, the hip extension always is followed by the pull to the chest. It's very important that you get the timing right to achieve the most upward momentum possible, to really rely on the hip drive instead of just the arms and shoulders for the pull. Now we're actually going to put things together into the most important and crucial aspect of the ring muscle up, which is the transition. If you have mastered all of the previous steps and you have enough strength in the bottom position, you have a strong hip drive, and you have developed the correct timing of the pull, this should be no problem. The idea here is that we do the similar motion as for the chest ring, but we continue pulling and we're actually going to sit up. This all needs to happen in a fraction of a second. So if you struggle with this, go back to the low rings first to get a conceptual idea of the transition on the low rings, and then try to come back to replicate what you just have done there. The amplitude of the ring swing was the exact same as in the ring swings that we've practiced. The hip drive was the exact same as for the chest ring pull-up that we've practiced. And the only component that we added was the sit-through and the transition of the ring in the hand where the knuckles go from facing up to facing down. The ring muscle up transition is also a great way to practice connecting several ring muscle ups after one another, because you can just stay in the bottom position of the dip and then fall back into your next kip swing. Especially for beginners, this makes it often easier to connect several reps and find this exact same position in the kip swing that you are supposed to hit for every single rep. Next, we will continue putting even more pieces together. Instead of doing the full ring muscle up just yet, we will wait in the bottom position of the dip. As you have a lot of momentum coming through, there will be some swinging. We always want to use this swinging to our advantage. As we said earlier, the ring dip isn't something we want to perform strict when we do the ring muscle up. We want to use the momentum of the legs swinging back to dip out of the bottom of the dip position. So what Jacqueline is going to do now is a ring muscle up transition. And she's going to hold the bottom, swing the legs, and use the momentum of the legs to dip out of the bottom position. The important thing here is that you have the patience in the bottom of the dip and you have good positions. That means you want to have your elbows stacked on top of the rings with your scapulars engaged, pressing down into the rings even though you're in the low position. And then swing your legs back aggressively before you dip out. If you want to progress this to the actual ring muscle up and the timing of the ring muscle up, you can reduce the amount of additional swings you can take in the bottom position. So Jacqueline is now going to demonstrate one more rep with just one additional swing. Once you have mastered the ring muscle up, the next challenge is connecting several in a row. Especially as you get tired, the speed you will be able to hold on the dip out may decrease over time. And that might introduce more swinging at the top. To control the swinging, it often helps lowering yourself into a dip first before you drop into the next repetition. So this is what Jacqueline is going to demonstrate now. So instead of dropping back down, you go into the dip first and then drop into the next repetition from there to control the swinging. Now finally, keep in mind that one of the best feedback tools is something you already have in your pocket, and that is your phone with a camera. We always recommend filming yourself for some instant feedback after you have done the drills, and then you can check back with how Jacqueline was demonstrating these drills in this particular video, or in our exercise library that you find linked in the description down below. Now, thanks for watching and see you in the next one.